Welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. We have Raven Adams of ravenadams.com today. How's everyone doing?
Good to be back again.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Again.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's all right. What's been happening then, Raven, since we last saw you? What have you been up to?
Just working a lot with my Lead with Energy program. I did a few more podcasts, so I really love being in front of the camera more, which has been nice. You know, speaking with people about different topics. So I'm glad I'm back on here again.
Has there been any specific topics that have been coming up more than others in the other ones that you've been doing?
Star beans recently. I've had some interesting experiences myself with astral travel. And I know Thomas is big into that. So that's been a big thing that's been circulating around me recently. Yeah.
Have you done any astral traveling?
Oh, all the time.
Good.
No. I didn't know who you were asking. But yeah, I've been doing it since I was a kid. Go ahead, Thomas.
I had some Syrians work on me, but that's been about it the past few days.
All right. Excellent.
Well, that's the main, those are the main ones you work with, correct?
Yeah. So I've been talking to them here and there.
What about you? Well, first off, let's talk about how good Jimmy looks with his new haircut.
Yeah, I've got a weight off my mind, so to speak. After cutting it off after nearly 6 years. So
yeah.
We all need a change every now and again, don't we?
Of course, it looks great. Yeah, I know Thomas has had a lot of experience with star beans. What about you, Jimmy?
I wouldn't say so much. I mean, I've no doubt that they're around, but I can't say that I've had many specific experiences, kind of conscious experiences, if you like. More just feeling the energy, I think. Whereas I speak to various people over the years and they talk about the different races and everything like that. And I wouldn't say that I could. I've channeled the odd one, I suppose. But it's hard to pinpoint which one it is sometimes. And light language and everything, you know, I speak light language. I used to speak light language more regularly than what I do now. And I find light language an interesting one because I know I've got some friends who speak it and they can pinpoint and say which race is speaking which particular language. And I always find that interesting.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, I don't do light language. I listen to a lot of light language as far as like meditations and stuff. I actually do them before I do a lot of podcasts. But 2 nights ago, I had a really interesting dream. I was with, do you guys know who Shaman Durek is?
I don't think so.
No. Great guy, but he came to me in a dream and he said he was teaching me. He had a notebook out and I had been writing symbols, but I didn't know what they were. And Durek came up to me and he was explaining to me that it was Arctic. He told me it was Arctic light language. And I woke up and I'm like, Arctic light language? I'm like, that's interesting. And so I'm like, where is he right now? And he was like in the Arctic, which I didn't. He was like in Norway. I'm like, that's crazy. But it's interesting how we get like certain downloads like through dreams, you know?
Yeah. I a few maybe a couple of months ago, I think I had a dream in Bashar. You know Bashar.
Yeah, I know Bashar.
Or actually, it wasn't Bashar. Funny enough, it was Daralanka who channels Bashar, and it was him. It wasn't Bashar speaking through him. It was him. He gave me a message. He said something. I wrote it down. I very rarely remember my dreams. Sometimes I do, but this one I remembered. He said, "Can you channel the 7th condense?" And I wasn't necessarily. I'm not quite sure what that means because he didn't say dimension or anything like that. He said condense.
Did you look it up? Like what? Yeah, that's interesting.
I did, but I wasn't. I don't feel haven't got to the bottom of it yet. I've got some thoughts about it, but I think it's probably got something to do with dimensions or something like that. But and the sixth one, but I'm still waiting for the answer, and I know that it will come as and when it needs to. So
yeah. Well, what would be interesting is if you put an intention out this week to ask for more downloads as far as that, and see if anything comes to you in dream state.
Yeah. I'll see. I'm sort of always got it in the back of my mind, so to speak. So
yeah,
we'll see. But thank you, Ada. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Had any good dreams lately?
Okay. Talking to me or Thomas.
Oh, sorry. Either of you, whoever's got it. Have either of you got had any good ones?
I'm trying to think of anything recently. You know what? I used to be good at writing down dreams. I really need to be more consistent with it, for sure. I have had a dream with connecting with beings from the GFL, which has been interesting. And I put an intention out a couple of weeks ago for them that I wanted to work on a higher level with them. And I did meet a being, and he was shorter. It was interesting because they were showing me a screen when I was in the ship of them working with specific humans while they were sleeping. But this one being came to me, and he was like shorter, and which I've never seen this before with a being, but he had a hood over him. Thomas, have you ever seen this? With like hoods?
Hoods over them? Yeah. It just depends on what things they are.
Yeah. And so I thought that was interesting because I had never seen that before, but he was like, it's your time now to start working more with us. And I just remember being really excited because I was like waiting for it. I was like, I'm ready for this. And he's like, we're going to start training you in the astral. So I thought that was really fascinating. It was a pretty short dream, but what was interesting is when I woke up, I wrote everything down, the specifics, but I was like, wow, the night before I put that intention out, right before I went to sleep, that I wanted to know more information. And there it showed up like that, And I remember in the dream, I was just so excited. I'm like, finally, it's like happening, which is fascinating. But I looked up afterwards because I had never seen the star beings with the hoods. But it's a lot of people have those experiences with certain beings that wear like hooded capes and stuff, which I had never seen before.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
I've seen some watchers. I've seen some watchers like that. Yeah, I just wonder sometimes why they're wearing hoods. Like, what are you hiding? But that's just me. When I've come across them a few times.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a lot of people have seen that though. And then after the being spoke with me, told me I was ready, introduced me to another being, and it was a tall gray, but that one didn't have a hood on. So I don't know what the hood means. Maybe I should ask them.
Maybe it's just their preferred article of clothing.
It's their fashion statement.
Yeah, their fashion on their
Well,
might be their cloak of something, invisibility or not invisibility, but
protection.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. What about you guys? Have you guys been speaking about anything recently that's been interesting to you?
It's just life, just stuff going on. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine last night.
You saw what? Oh my! You know what's so funny? I've been seeing those the advertisements everywhere, and it always reminds me of you. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. It was hyper violent, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, those have like a lot of comedy in them, right?
Yeah, but it was lacking story. But I mean, it was good. It was good.
Yeah. I knew you would be wanting to see that.
But it's good. Yeah, it's good.
I can't really think of anything that has been.
Well, here, this. I have an idea. This is a good topic. Okay, how about Thomas? I have not seen that movie yet. I see it advertised everywhere. You watching that movie, did you get any like spiritual lessons or aha moments when watching the movie?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. Because it's Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe if it was like Endgame or something. I think that more applies to the world right now.
I haven't seen that either. I don't know.
Like
Nothing from.
Avengers Endgame.
Huh.
Yeah, I just think people are being herded into different I'm channeling a little bit, like socio-economic belief systems. That's why I keep posting crazy things.
Oh, people get triggered in a
Because I
heartbeat.
want to see how people react. I genuinely want to
course.
see how people react. And I want my question.
Yeah. What a surprise. Thomas trying to trigger somebody.
I want my question answered. If and I don't mean to get all political, but I'm like, and all I see on my Facebook feed is politics. I don't even
Oh,
look
me
at
too.
Facebook feed.
Yeah.
Just all I want to say is like, tell me how this one person is going to change things. I need a detailed thing, and they never can give me a detailed thing. They just write out all this different stuff. This person's intelligent. This person, I'm like, okay, you can't answer the question. That's the problem.
Well, what's interesting, and I'm not huge into politics, and it's for a specific reason, because I think we give too much of our power away to a presidential candidate. Too many people sit around and watch the news all day and give their power over to whoever it is, Trump or Biden, and then they sit around and they complain about their life all day, and they don't take the day-to-day action of actually working on themselves. That's how you change your life.
It is taking action.
I just feel like part of like the world's crashing and people are just looking for another distraction method. That's my whole thing. So I keep saying that. It irritates me.
Well, I've been listening to a lot of Electric Six just lately. I don't know if that means anything. But
a lot of what?
Do you know Electric Six?
Mm-mm.
You know Danger, High Voltage, and Gay Bar. You heard them?
No, I mean maybe I have, and I just don't recognize what you're saying.
I saw them live a couple of 3 weeks ago, and that sort of rekindled my interest in them. Yeah. And they're sort of an out there band, but they're good fun, shall we say, and they're good live. But they do a lot of touring, and it kind of made me want to do touring as well. Do you ever have that where you see someone doing something, or you see a group or a band or a group of people, and you think, yeah, I'd like to do that as well? And it gives you impetus or gives you inspiration to do stuff. And that's kind of what we do. We get inspiration from other people, don't we, a lot of the time, isn't it? I mean, it's good to sort of get the inspiration from within ourselves, but sometimes we need that outside prompt, that outside source to remind us or to spark something within us.
Oh, well, of course. It's like you have to, let's say, for example, like nature to me is super inspiring. Music to me gets me in an inspirational mood, but you have to be self-aware to say, hey, is this a distraction, what I'm putting my focus on, or am I actually going to take this energy that I'm looking at and take action within my own life and let it inspire me, right? So if you're sitting in the park all day saying, hey, nature is inspiring to me, but you're not actually working on your business or doing work on yourself, you could be actually using nature as a distraction if you're sitting there all day, every day. Does that make sense? So you have to have that self-awareness.
Yeah. I find that there's a lot of inspiration all around. It's just recognizing it, isn't it?
Of course. Every day.
And
I've been listening to your tone on YouTube.
Oh yeah. You said you'd been listening to the Cell Salts one, didn't you? Have you?
Yeah, Cell Salt, a bunch of them actually. They're pretty good. Yeah, I like some of them. I don't know exact one, but I've just played. There's one that I play over and over. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But especially when I'm live on music. Yeah, it's music on YouTube.
Yeah, you have a great YouTube with all your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I just basically I don't compose the music myself. I just choose the ones off a free site, and then apply my frequencies to the music and tune the music to the frequency that I'm using. And then because I figured people would rather listen to some nice music. I mean, there are some who prefer just listening to the tone, but I think most people would prefer to listen to some nice music, some meditation music or whatever. So I like to sort of cater to that because it's interesting. And you can just play it in the background or what have you as you go about your day.
Yeah.
I do. So it's nice. And you can basically make a tone for anything, really. Yeah, so do a frequency for everything.
Mhm.
If everything's frequency, then it stands to reason that you can do a tone for everything. So
Yeah. That's why I was so excited for you to watch that Skinwalker Ranch, because they do deal so much with that, you know, which is fascinating.
I'll let you know what I think when I watch it.
Yeah, definitely watch like an episode or two and let me know what you think.
So I've been having a lot. I don't know. Have you heard of a guy called, what's his name? Carl Monk. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of a bit not universally acclaimed. Not many people know about him, and those some people have tried to debunk him, and he basically put out this, I think it was about 5-hour presentation on YouTube called The Code, where he explains the I might have talked about this before, but he explains the correlation and how all of the major sites, like the pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, some ruins and pyramids in South America, how they're all connected through geomathematics. And I've been having visions and thoughts about those just recently, and even connects it to the face on Mars that you can see.
Yeah, I've seen photos of it. Yeah.
And how that's connected into the whole thing as well, and I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it's something.
What visions have you had about it specifically?
Just thoughts, really, not necessarily vision, just thoughts about the connections between them all, because they're all kind of connected geomathematically. And he says basically that instead of the Greenwich meridian line being through Greenwich, like as being the sort of the zero line, where all times are taken from plus and minus, how it used to be, it used to go through Giza, but it's changed.
Yeah.
And that's to do with the sort of the magnetic north moving, I think, or something like that. And if you have, there's a clock, I think it's in Prague. I think it's in Czechoslovakia. I'm not sure if it's in Prague, that kind of goes round and it moves. There's a circle within a circle, and it's almost like it's hard to explain. But there's a clock there that sort of shows to me how the magnetic north and the poles change over time. There's a big clock on a building, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
What are they warning us of the pole shift?
I think so. I think
the pole shift they're talking about, Jimmy.
It feels like it. It's got something to do with that anyway, and how the land. Because I mean, Thomas, that I don't necessarily believe that the Earth is a spinning ball, but it shows how there's more land outside there than what we know, and this clock kind of shows that. And if you ever look, and there's also a theory that the moon is showing a map of the Earth, and it only shows part of the Earth, basically, of where we're at the moment, and there's more land outside that we don't know about, and how the sort of the pole moves around, and which is why it gets colder in some places, and that's why ice ages occur and stuff like that. So it's really it's quite a deep subject, and takes research and takes a lot of open-mindedness, shall we say?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's like there's so much about the world we don't know, and so many people think they know everything.
Mm.
We know nothing. Wouldn't it be amazing to travel to all these places and really like feel into the energy of them just to see what you get, especially with YouTube being sensitive to like really travel to the actual locations?
Yeah, exactly. And sort of on the map, on the moon map, on the sort of the moon that shows the map of the Earth. It has land in the sort of the section. I think it's the bottom right. Well, it depends on where you look at it. But in the section where it's the known world that we know and the maps that we're shown, it's got land there that is not on our current map, and whether that's sort of Atlantis or Sumeria or whatever, I'm not sure. But I think it's east. No, west of North America, sort of in the Pacific Ocean, and I'm not sure whether do planes fly over the Pacific Ocean or do they only fly east?
I mean, there's a lot of places where it's which is very fascinating, where it's restricted. I saw something about this the other day, and now people are like really doing research, like what's over there in that land where planes can't fly over, where we can't visit. You know, a lot of that is probably government land. There's stuff going on there, obviously. You know.
Yeah. And then there's
Stay away from Antarctica.
Yeah, I remember we spoke about this last time. Yeah. So wait, you're telling me, Thomas, you haven't done any more traveling there?
No, stay away from Antarctica at all costs. There's no point. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff over there. I saw a whole thing on the Lyrian Orion Wars, but they and it was, I think I sent it to Jimmy because at some point they went into Antarctica, the ice wall or something. But there's a lot of people over there. I think it's important to be careful.
Definitely. And I mean, I've seen a few things about Antarctica and Admiral Byrd and all of that kind of stuff. Jim says, check out Newgrange here in Ireland. Important links. I've written it down. Thank you, Jim. Interesting. But yeah, that's kind of I get intrigued by certain things that are not what we've been told things are. I like to explore things that have a different perspective and a different view, because things just don't make sense sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like hearing you speak, because you've always been like that. You're very, very open-minded. Like somebody will say something and your mind's like, hold on, let me go 5 different directions with this. But I think that's beautiful. I think more people need to be open-minded instead of just believing what they've been told, you know?
And also to not think that we know everything, because otherwise you never learn anything if you think you know everything already.
Exactly.
But that's just the attitude that I have, that I don't know anything, and I'm always willing to learn and research. If something doesn't sound right, or if something makes more sense, then I'll quite happily drop what I thought was the truth. And stuff. That doesn't mean that someone's gullible, because you don't necessarily believe everything that you hear. You're just open to believing everything if it makes sense, if it makes more sense than what you thought before. Because otherwise you're kind of just mind you, you're kind of stubborn, basically. We're not willing to change, even if something makes more sense. So well, some of the best mediums I know think that way, in terms of hey, I don't know everything and I'm willing to learn. I saw a meeting one time, one of her friends was like, well, Jen isn't real, and she's like, no, Jen's real. You just haven't been to countries that actually have seen it and tapped into it. You know, once you see it, you'll know that they're real. And so just because somebody says something about a specific spirit, maybe a specific star being, and you don't understand it, doesn't mean it's not real. You have to be open-minded. Yeah, totally. I feel like that's the only way we learn anything.
Absolutely.
So but and I guess it's almost like a marker. It's almost again, and that's what I was going to say. If we were constantly being given signs, and if, like, say, our guides, our spirit team, what have you, if we're constantly being shown things and everything is working for us in our favor, then to dismiss anything that comes our way without giving it due course and attention, then is not necessarily helpful for us if we're being given signs and then just ignoring them because we think we know everything already.
Yeah.
So that's not to say we have to believe everything that we see, because obviously, but and then that's where we get the opportunity to use our discernment, our intuition,
Absolutely.
Something's right, and it's almost like it's a test in a sense. It's a good test of discernment.
Well, I love that word discernment, because I teach this to a lot of my clients, and my guides will do this with me as well. And I always say this: Spirit's not going to give you all the answers all the time. And that's the whole point, because they want you to trust yourself and use your own discernment, because what would be the point in Spirit just everything working out in your favor and you know everything? You learn absolutely nothing, right? And so we're here to learn multiple different things from Spirit, but to also trust our own soul.
Yeah, totally. And I think I'm open to everything, and I see. Me and Thomas spoke about it before. There's a lot of arguing going on online and everything like that. But I don't necessarily have any reason to argue with anyone, because I think, well, if they want to believe that and if that's how they see it, then that's fine. I don't need to convince them that it's this way or that way.
Well, that's because you're not in a high ego state. But if you're speaking with somebody that's very attached to something and they're in their ego, you can trigger people really easy when they're in that state.
Yeah.
I know Thomas knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want people to look, not blindly follow.
Yeah.
No. Not everyone's ready for that. I expected it this election. Last time it was kind of the same thing, so I kind of expected the same thing, even though it was kind of worse on Facebook back then. But I would go live and talk about all kinds of stuff that get me in trouble. It's okay.
It's funny because I don't know. Are you interested in politics? Do you take an interest in politics, Raven?
I'm not a huge political person. It's funny. So a few days ago, somebody in my family, all he does is watch the news. That's what he does, day to day, and just complains about it. And he was super triggered at the fact that I don't sit around and talk about Trump all day. But that's his life, He just is mad at the world every day, talks about Fox News all the time. That's his whole life. But he's also somebody that doesn't take responsibility for his own life and his own relationships. And there's a reason why his friendships are bad. There's a reason why there's tension in the family from his side. A lot of people want to say, oh, well, my life is going to shit because of XYZ, instead of taking personal responsibility. See this all the time.
Yeah. And I'm sure, there were times when I'm sure everyone has thought that, but then some obviously are able to see that everything is our responsibility. At the end of the day, we sort of in control of everything that we create, whether it seems like we are or whether we're not. And that's not to say that that's definitely how it is. That's just how I see it. And if someone wants to say that it's not like that, then I'll happily debate with them, but I won't. I won't say, right, this is how it definitely is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people will realize things when they're ready, and And I may realize that we're not in control of everything that we do one day. I'm still open to that. Just because I think that we are in control of everything we do doesn't mean that I can't change and one day think, oh, well, actually, no, that doesn't make sense anymore. We're not in control of everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's the beautiful thing to have an opinion like that. And I might talk to you 5 years from now, and Jimmy, you might say to me, wait, I completely changed my stance on this, like, and that's fine. It's like, you can't shame somebody for changing their energy around a specific subject, but you see people shame people all the time, especially people that are big in the spiritual field. If they have a specific stance on something and then they change their mind, it's like you have all these people completely shame them because they're a spiritual idol or something. It's like, you guys were human. If we want to change our mind about something, let us change our mind.
Yeah.
It's called growth. That's a beautiful thing. You're supposed to be growing.
It's almost sort of become a sin for someone to change their mind on something. It's like, well, last week you thought this, and how dare you change your mind? You have to think.
Exactly.
But yeah, that does make me laugh.
Yeah. Life is funny though, because I do think we have the ability to create and manifest, but a lot of it I feel like is a mixture of taking action and a mix of surrender. Like, I think too many people try to control the outcome too much, where spirit's trying to come in and help you, and then that's where people get stuck. So I think it's a mix of, we can create our reality with a mix of taking action and surrender.
Yeah, I think so. I think surrendering is important, because I heard someone say once that surrendering, how can I put it? You want control, but you feel like you haven't got it. And the way to get control is to surrender, because you're allowing things to happen as they should, rather than wanting to interfere. And it's human nature to interfere with things. I think that's sort of one of the things. Sort of top of the list. We have to interfere with shit. So
it's true. Well, humans, we live in a society now where things are fast, right? You have like Amazon Prime, you have Uber Eats, you can get things immediately. And so when people talk about energy work and manifesting, it's like a lot of people want it super, super fast, and they feel like they can control it. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, well, energy isn't real, which isn't true, Sometimes you have to have patience, and a lot of us don't want to have patience. I know I have that problem, learning to have patience for certain things coming along in my life, but that's, I feel, a lifelong process.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, it's, I see, I guess I just tend to observe and try and figure out why things happen the way that they do. And it's like recently, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, where someone sends you something, or you do something for someone that they were going to ask you to do, or you were going to ask someone to do something and they've already done it without you having to ask them. I mean, this happened yesterday.
It happens to me a lot.
With Michelle. Michelle is amazing for this. I think, right, I need to ask Michelle to do that, and then 5 minutes later, before I've even asked her, she's done it and she sent it to me. And that happens often. It's not as if it's just a one-off thing. It happens a lot. So there is that connection. There is that telepathic.
Of course,
and we're not aware of it. And it's not as if I've sat there and I thought, right, I want Michelle to do this, so I'm going to concentrate and I'm going to focus and I'm going to send this to her and she's going to do it. It's almost do it without even thinking. Almost, well, you have to think. You think, right, I'd like to do this. I bet I'll message her in a minute or whatever. And then before you've even messaged, she's done it. So I haven't. So, and it's a bit like the story I said, the little example I gave, I think it was last week or the week before, where I think it was a few weeks ago, where I said a few times, and it happened more than once. I thought to myself, I'll just turn the TV on. And without even touching the remote, the TV came on. And And whether I turned it on with my thought, I don't know. But that seems, I mean, it's kind of there is no other explanation, because I was nowhere near the remote control. It just came on after I thought it, but I didn't actually, I didn't have the thought with the intention to turn the TV on. I just thought I'd like to turn the TV on, and voila, it came on. And I don't know if you've had any sort of thing.
I mean, stuff. Oh yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens to me all the time, daily. And I think it's going to be happening more and more to people that aren't even aware of this stuff. I definitely think the next couple of years, a lot of this is going to happen. And even, have you guys ever had like glitches in the Matrix where something moves or somebody walk past you and then they disappear? Stuff like that has been happening to me.
What have you been doing to him?
I'm like, so it's so funny. I was like watching this video on glitches in the Matrix the other day, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was like the only one. The weirdest things happening to me. And I swear I saw, it was so strange. I'm like, I know somebody just walked past me into the kitchen, a specific person. And then all of this, like I was there, they didn't walk past. And then all of a sudden they walked past again. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you just walked past there. And he's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you did. I saw, it's almost like I saw a preview or an energy. I don't know. It was so strange. He's like, Raven. He's like, I did not. And then I saw somebody in a room and I'm like, I swear I just saw you walk downstairs. And he goes, no, I didn't walk downstairs. He goes, I've been sleeping here for 30 minutes. I go,
really?
I'm like, that's not even possible. You know, so little things like that have been happening to me. Have you guys had any experiences with that, with like objects moving or people like literally within seconds showing up in different places?
Not necessarily.
I've seen black figures walking around the hotel. I don't know if they're ghosts or remnants, but I see it just walking around. They'll be there and they're not really there, or they're there and I just see them for a minute. They may just like turn a corner, or I may be walking by a hallway and I'll see it walking at me or walking away. I'm like, interesting. But I just keep walking. I might double check, maybe. It's rare that I do that, but yeah, I'm like, something's there. I'm like, well, whatever.
Wait, have they just showed up recently to the spot you're at, or they've been there for a while?
No, I think I've seen it for a while, different places, but I think I've seen it more the past couple of days.
Interesting. Well, what do you feel into it? What do you think they are? You don't know?
I mean, they could be ghosts. They could be lower vibrational entities. I just see them walking around. So it feels like they're human, most of them. Maybe they want my attention to cross them over. I'm not really sure. But it's usually when I'm not looking for them that I see them.
Of course, yeah.
Kimberly says, my sister's son disappeared and reappeared on the path in front of us while dirt biking. It must have been quite...
I mean, stuff like that's happening to people a lot right now. It's interesting.
What do you make of what's the... I think I've heard many different reasons why this happens. But deja vu, you know, that phenomenon.
Yeah.
What's your explanation of what that is?
So like, well, I mean, I don't know. Deja vu, when it does happen to me, it's more of, it's interesting. Like have you ever been driving to a place you know you've never been and you're like, I 100% know this land. I've been here. That could be, my guys were telling me the other day, a past life connection with the lands. I mean, it could be multiple different things, but yeah, it doesn't happen to me all the time, but deja vu is very interesting. Or having the same conversation with somebody that you think you've had before. And then I think, have I had this conversation with somebody in the astral, right? On another dimension? I don't know. Yeah. Or even like people you meet, it's interesting because I think a lot of the people that I meet where I have that soul connection, I either knew in a past life or I work with them in the astral. Like Thomas, for example, I knew when I saw him, I was like, oh, I'm like, he feels familiar. I definitely know him from the astral. Like we work together or we do something in the astral.
I'll see things before they happen. So it may be like sometimes it's 3 years and like beforehand, and I'll have a dream and I'll remember it, and then I'll wake up and I'll remember it, and then I'll forget it. And then whenever that exact memory pops in, like that second, what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was hearing, then all of a sudden it'll just click.
Yeah. And you remember the dream from like 3 years ago when it happened.
Yeah, I just remember the second in time that I had it. So I could be literally having this conversation right now and dreamt this like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it could be just 1 second. So when I'm thinking, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Like in that second, I feel that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I have no idea.
Do you guys have lots of, this has happened to me a few times, premonitions in your dreams?
No, never. I never have any premonitions in my dreams.
Really?
Not.
I get them more when I'm awake.
Yeah.
There are things that you feel, right, that's not going to happen, or this is going to happen, or whatever. But I try and obviously take your mind out of it, because obviously your mind can create situations. It can create anything. You can think that anything's going to happen with your mind. And so it's important to take that out of it and just feel into it, sort of with your whatever intuition or whatever, whatever you use as a marker. And because I feel like because we recognize ourselves as having some psychic ability, we sometimes think that automatically means that we know what other people are thinking, but that doesn't necessarily mean that.
I think I saw you post something about this the other day.
Me? Did I post something about it?
I feel like maybe you did on something, or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Yeah. I think I replied to a friend's post about this, because I find that, because I used to think, well, I definitely know what that person's thinking, and then I was completely wrong, and I was wrong most of the time, and I wonder what the percentage is of people who say that they know what other people are thinking, whether how often they're right and how often they're wrong, because I'd wager that they're wrong most of the time. Although we might get it right sometimes, and we do have that ability to read other people's thoughts. I've got no doubt about that. I've got no doubt that we can tune into someone, and we are telepathic and all of that. But in my experience, I find that I'm not going to try and guess what someone else is thinking, because I'm probably going to be wrong. But I may be manifesting that. That's the thing. It may just be me, because I think I'm going to be wrong, then I am wrong, if you know what I mean.
Totally. I mean, I definitely believe, and in that, I mean, it's happened to me multiple times. I do believe we can tap into people's thoughts, but I think you have to come from a neutral state, right? So let's say there's tension with me and somebody, and I'm like angry, and I think I'm angry with this person about something, and I think I know what they're thinking, when really I'm just projecting, right? And I'm completely wrong. So I think you have to be in a grounded, like, neutral state if you are really picking up on that, right? It's like with healing work or mediumship work. It's like you don't want to be in a chaotic state form when you do this work. You really have to take care of your own energy field, right? Because you're dealing, for example, let's say you said you thought somebody was saying something inside their head and you were completely wrong. If you would have went with that, you literally could have ruined a friendship, right? Oh, well, this person thinks X, Y, Z. And if you would have stuck with that and not been open-minded, you could literally ruin a relationship with constantly thinking you're right all the time.
Yeah.
What people that think all their exes are narcissists.
Oh, well, that's a huge trend right now. I mean, I definitely think there's narcissists, but you see that all over Instagram and TikTok. But a lot of people like to throw out that word, right? Because they don't want to take responsibility. You hear that thrown around all the time. Yeah.
I should make a whole spiritual service just on narcissism.
Oh, you would have, especially women, sign up for that. I'm sure. Women like to throw that word around.
From a narcissist. It wasn't your fault. It was all their fault. Everything was their fault.
Yeah.
Kimberly says, have you babbled out loud what people are thinking? I did that at my 40th high school reunion.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I've no doubt that we can do that. We can tune in. I feel like
Of course.
it comes from a place where we don't think about what it's something that just happens innately. That the thought will just come to us or whatever. It's not right. We don't necessarily think what other people are thinking. We just is that knowing, if you see what I mean.
I think some people I can tell when they find out what I do. I've had people I can tell, it's not like I'm trying to like intentionally tap into their energy, but you know how it is with being able to read energy. It's like without even trying, if you're sensitive to energy, you can walk into a room and you just like know things. So it's funny sometimes where people I can feel get a little bit nervous around me, and I'm like, you're good, you can calm down. I'm not like tapping into your energy or like going into all your thoughts, and people get a little nervous around me sometimes. I'm like, you're safe, I promise. But again, it's not me intentionally walking into a room saying I need to know everything about this guy or this girl and I'm going to tap into their energy. Sometimes it's just a knowing, like I just instantly know,
And I guess we kind of we interpret things in a different way, and sometimes we just feel something and we can't necessarily put it into words.
Totally.
We just get that a vibe or something like that, and it's in different ways that we interpret stuff. So, Sorry, Thomas, are you going to say something? Sorry.
Oh no, I'm good. It's been a crazy week.
Yeah, I'm like he's quiet this podcast. I feel like you need a nap.
No, it's a lot of stuff going on this week.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. We all have those weeks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, but what was I going to say? Deja vu. Kimberly said he feels like deja vu has been happening a lot. Soul family is uniting, and soul family is an interesting one. You feel like how do you sort of see soul family? Is it people that you know in sort of in this realm, so shall we say, in this life, or I don't know, is it just in the sort of the astral realm?
I feel like it could be both. What do you think, Thomas? I mean, soul family is just soul connection.
Yeah, I mean, you have free will to do what you want to do. I don't think people really realize that. You have free will to do whatever you want to do. So it's like, do you connect with soul family? I mean, how many people have I seen that say they're with their twin flame and they're not? We've seen plenty of spiritual couples on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and then they break up. They say they're twin flames. I've seen this over and over again.
It's always when they're adamant about it too, like super adamant.
Yeah, they're adamant. They're like, this is the person.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus. But yeah, soulmates could be your dog. They could be your parents. They could be your friends. They could be your enemies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I remember Javier. I can say his name. I don't care. I remember him killing me another lifetime, which kind of corresponds to craziness he's done in this one. So yeah, I remember just certain things from different people. I'm like, yeah, okay, I know what they're going to do this time around, or what they're going to try to do, given the confines of their whatever it is they can and can't do in this reality.
And also, I feel like in this lifetime, soul family does not necessarily mean that soul family for your whole entire time here on Earth, right? So people come and go in our lives when we need them, whether it's a romantic soulmate, whether it's specific friendships.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, has there been anyone who's been in your life, apart from obviously your family, your physical family? Has there been anyone in your life that has been there since since you were a kid or a young adult?
Yes, but I feel like I've grown a lot. I'm at a different stage. So it's kind of seeing people where they're at and seeing where I am. I feel like my friend group is my close friends right now are completely different from when I was younger, for sure.
Mm.
And it's not that I still don't have those connections. We're just in different places right now.
Mm. Oh, okay. Excellent. Got a question from Jim. I'll put it on the screen.
A lot. I think it's just putting it into perspective how to use your higher self. I did a whole class on that last week. Yeah, it's just using different techniques so you can communicate with your higher self. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think people are making it way too complicated, all these things like quantum and everything else. I think you can make it much easier. So when I've been mentoring people, I've made it very simple.
Mm.
Like, how do you do this simply instead of making it so complicated?
Yeah.
I don't want to give away what I teach.
Yeah. I love how Thomas said that, because you have the people in the spiritual field that like to throw out these terms, right? And make things super, super complicated when it really doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, you have to, I think some of the best teachers have, they're very grounded and they can relate to humans, and that's how they get their point across instead of being all up in the air.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I'm maybe I do. I'm not aware of it most of the time. I don't think, although I think we probably do engage with our higher selves more than we realize, probably. But what is our higher self? That's another question. What is how do you define what our higher self is?
How I see it is the energy of you that's connected into source. So if it was Chiron talking about it, our higher self, like on another planet, will control like 40% of what we do.
Yeah.
Like here, it's like 2 to 5, maybe 10%. But it's you're not hive mind. It's just your higher self knows what to do and when to do it. So it's like when you have intuition to do something, but you're arguing with it, you're not listening like to your higher self, because all these people want to talk to their spirit guides because they think their spirit guides are going to give them the answers, even though they're already giving them the answers. They're just not acting them because they have free will. So the higher self's like this energy that's connected into God or source or universe, creator, or whatever word you want, like that universal force of creation.
So it's kind of like the gateway, the pathway, the connector from us to source, basically, in a sense.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I had pulled, it's so funny the way Thomas described that, because I'm like, okay, what is a part of this podcast today? And I pulled, which was basically the higher self card, which is connecting to source God. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's probably too bright. Reconnecting. So it is. It's working with, to me, it's working with that gold energy from the crown. But yeah, it's just connecting to source God, whatever you want to call it. And like Thomas said, our guides are sending us these little signs all the time. But a lot of the times we're too stuck in our heads, or we're too busy and we're not paying attention, and we don't get the intuitive hit, you know?
Yeah. Hey, Teresa, thank you. Sorry to hear about your brother. Zach Frame said, with regards to higher self, it's you, but from an elevated perspective, a higher perspective, and an advantage point that provides you with a sense of intuition. Which is a good summation. And I have a question, just before we sort of wrap up. Do you and everyone, do you think that you would get on, or do you get on with yourself? Like if you met someone who was an exact clone, was exactly the same as you, would you get on with them?
Oh my God, that's so funny. What a good question.
because I feel like that if depending on the answer to that shows how at peace we are with ourselves and how whether we like our own behavior. Because I noticed that sometimes, and I've noticed this about myself, that someone does something and I think, oh, it's really annoying, and I realise that I do the exact same thing.
The projections, yeah.
And so I think, so I don't like that about myself, so therefore I can change it because they've just shown me what I'm like, if you see what I mean.
No, totally. Yeah. And I think, I mean, you hear that quote a lot. It's like what you don't like in somebody, it's like, take a look at yourself, which that isn't true all the time. Sometimes people are just assholes and they're just assholes, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, you do have to look at yourself, That's a good question. I mean, I think I'm a lot of fun. I think I would get along with myself. Probably not all the time. Because I do get in my head a lot too. That's a really good question. I mean, I think it would be ups and downs, right? With anybody.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? To meet someone who will meet you yourself. And just see how you got on.
Yeah, totally.
That'd be fun.
That's funny. That's a really good question.
So, what about you, Thomas? Do you think you'd get on with yourself?
Probably not.
That's so funny.
I love your honesty.
Probably yelling at another version of me.
Double trouble.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great question.
Zach says that's the best way to approach shadow work. If we do not consciously work on it, our shadow is projected onto other people in places so that we do not have to take accountability for it. He says an older version of myself, maybe. Jim says my higher self has guided me to accept all my higher self energy to ascend higher away from duality, a process where I've argued with higher self many times. Haha. So yeah, I think we've all argued with our higher selves or guides or whatever.
Oh my God, I argue with my guides all the time, but my guides are hilarious. I think we all do that.
Definitely, but we resist sometimes.
Of course, especially I always laugh because my guides are like, because I'm a Taurus, and I'm like, I know I can definitely be stubborn. I'm like, do not tell me what to do. And my guides are like, relax, Raven.
I know, it's fun. So, let's have a look who we got. Kimberly says, oh my gosh, probably not. But yeah, that's interesting. I find it interesting.
Great question.
I noticed the traits that I exhibit in other people, and I think whether they annoy me or not. Hey Bob, we were just about to leave. Actually, we were just about to sign off. Actually, but any more questions? Anything else that anyone wants to say? Or Raven, have you got anything that you tell us where to find you?
Well, thank you for putting my website. It's ravenadams.com. A lot of my stuff is over on Instagram at Lead with Energy. You can see where I place my different oracle cards, angel cards, and I have my Lead with Energy program, and then also TikTok at Lead with Energy. But thank you guys for having me again.
It's a pleasure as always. One quick one before we go. Zach says, which esoteric tool do you prefer using, if any?
Well, obviously, I'm known for my cards. Yeah. I mean, I run Lead with Energy, so I place tarot, oracle, and angel cards around for people to find. So I use a lot of cards, but I'm very clairvoyant too. So, but yeah, definitely cards is something I use a lot.
Thomas, I know you got a wand, haven't you?
A lot of my tools have disappeared. So when my wand's gone, there's a lot of stuff that's disappeared. So I guess I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think throughout your spiritual journey, you'll be pulled to different things and your gifts change, right? Like for me, my clairvoyance keeps growing and growing. Spirit speaks to me in different ways. So I think it changes throughout your lifetime what you're drawn to.
Yeah, definitely. For me personally, it's just basically frequency. I kind of, if you can call that esoteric, which I don't see why not. But just frequency, different frequencies. But yeah, thanks for the questions, Zach. Thanks for the questions, and Jim and Teresa, Kimberly, and everyone. And Thomas, you got any classes this Sunday coming up?
Connection Divine Interventions on my website, Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you, brother. Thank you, Raven. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.